you actually where the ball landed.
Right.
So why can't we implement that type of technology? We're talking about the NFL is going to have revenues projected to be over $13 billion in 2016. But we cannot have the technology placed in 32 stadiums, plus London, or now they're playing the game in Mexico City on Monday, to be able to make sure we have accurate calls to support our viewing, as you know, for the fans as well as for those football players. Go ahead, Doc.
As a guy who loves the raw game, I would honestly say when they started implementing instant replays and things like that to help make the calls, I didn't like it. To me, it was just getting too high tech. To me, the game is played on the field. It's a judgment call right then. You make the call once the call is made. It's over. You run the next play. That's the way I felt about it. And actually, that's still the way I feel about it. I would love to see all of this instant replay stuff removed from the game. But if you are going to use it the way it's supposed to be used. I'm sick and tired of this inconclusive evidence mess. If it shows something, that's what the call should be. And it shouldn't be limited to how you're going to use it. They should have also been able to go back and use that video to see if that guy had held our center down.
Exactly. And that's a good point.
If you're going to use it.
That's a good point.
You can't, don't pick and choose how you're going to use it. If you're going to use the technology, use the technology or get it the hell out of the game.
Man, when will a coach be allowed to at least use one of his challenges to see if there is a infraction called on the play?
Well, here's the thing, guys.
Oh, hey, what's up, Brendan? How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm all right. It's been a little bit. I just got back from calling a women's basketball game here, so I thought I'd pop in for a few minutes.
Well, good to hear you.
Pleasure, Brendan. Let me hear you.
Here's the really frustrating part about the point that Remy just brought up about holding the center down is if you actually read through the rules and all that fun stuff in the NFL official handbook, what the Broncos did is not illegal because the man jumping over the center did not make contact with the center.
I understand that.
So sadly, when you look at that part, there's not a whole lot that can be done. I think that there needs to be a rule adjustment because now that teams have figured that out, maybe you're going to see it a little more often. I'm with what you guys said about the whole comparing it to the U.S. Open. I think that's a very smart idea. But I think that the NFL is not going to want to invest that kind of money into it, which stinks.
Which
like
doesn't make sense. Again,
I mean, what?
You're $13 billion. Go ahead.
I mean, all that money and all that money they're bringing in and all the money that I'm handing them so I can go see the Saints-Carolina game tomorrow. I'd like to know with the attendance and everything, all the money they bring in, they should be able to get calls right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
But
one thing, on one hand, you're upset as a Saints fan and a Saints analyst and all these things that we are. But on the other hand, I think what Coach Payton said is absolutely true. You got to move on from.
Of course, you have to move on, but it doesn't mean that we cannot be able to say, look, there's something wrong with this picture. And you're utilizing the network's cameras to be able to make calls. But over the past several years, if, like you said, Rem, if you're going to use the system, why don't you improve the system every year if you're going to utilize the system? And one way to improve the system is to be able to have those added vantage points to help you make accurate calls or closer to accurate calls. You understand? So that's all I'm saying. And it's not just me as a Saints fan. It's me as a fan of the game who appreciates the game technology has its place. And if we're going to implement it, let's implement it to its fullest where we can be able to have the product on the field that people are going to appreciate. Now, Professor, you and I talked about this earlier this week as well. Everybody talks about the dwindling ratings of the NFL, right? And one of the reasons why people are not tuning in is because the product on the field is watered down, or we don't appreciate what we are seeing on the field. And this, how these refs are calling the games, are a part of that as well. That's just, it's a part of the negative aspect, but we have to bring to light what's actually going on. So how can we improve the game? If you are part of that competition committee, you have to sit down and be able to give all credible reasoning to say, yes, what can we do to add to the game? It may cost us X amount of millions of dollars, but it's not going to cost us billions of dollars to add that extra cameras to sidelines as well as out of bounds in the end zone. That's all we're saying. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, one thing, and good evening to you, BB. Good to have your son. It is very, very imperative that the NFL makes the officials full-time. Because these guys need to be homing in on their officiating all year round, even during the off season. And when you have part-time officials, in the game, and they only are utilized at a part-time level, that's why you're seeing the officiating that is so bad all around the league this year. I mean, it's not just the Saints-Denver game. It has been a lot of bad officiating throughout this year. I mean, it's just been bad. And I think in changing the game, and that's going to be difficult because the NFL got those lawsuits for the CTs, and now they're very afraid of losing money with any type of injury. So one of the things to make the game better is give the defense a little more freedom, and that's not going to happen. You see they took away, in terms of trying to protect people on kickoffs. I look for them to do the same thing with punts. I mean, the game is going to be continued watered down because of they want to streamline their profits and they don't want to have, I'm using accounting terms, contingent liabilities, which are usually lawsuits. When you do financial statements, when I prepare financial statements for companies or anything, one of the things I have to put on their financial disclosures on their balance sheet is their contingent liabilities, their lawsuits. And a lot of times when people are looking to make a decision when to invest in a company, they miss looking at the contingent liabilities. I always tell people when they come, I'm like, you need to look on their balance sheet at contingent liabilities. That'll tell you how many lawsuits they have or payouts they're going to have to pay out to people for their products. The NFL does not want any more contingent liability. As a result, improving the game is going to be minuscule at best. You're not going to find errors to improve it. The goal is for the NFL, because they want it to be entertainment, so it's to protect the quarterbacks, to keep them around, and the officials keep my costs, my expenses for salaries down, so keep them part-time, and therefore I do not have to pay any benefits, insurance, or anything like that for them. I'm sure they all have workman's comp on their own. And so I don't really know how you're going to make this get. I know for myself, personally, there are times when I'm watching the game outside of Saints games, I don't even watch them. Other teams like the Monday night game or the Thursday night games, I'll be here in the office working on something else, halfway paying attention, because it's just the interest to me sometimes drains. So I really don't know what they're going to do, but I do know that, as you and BB alluded to, they really need to make an effort. Because guess what? You've had two very interesting calls, the open game against Craig Robinson on 4th down, and now this situation here that could cost the Saints, instead of being 6-3, they're 4-5. And at the end of the season, what happens if the 1 or 2 games lost? Partly to officiating, mostly due to the Saints caused themselves to be. There should have never been any predicaments, but it still happens. What happens if the Saints miss the playoffs by one game, or those two games make a difference? The good thing for the Saints, both games were against AFC opponents. The bad thing for the Saints, if they end up in a tie with Atlanta, Atlanta beat Denver, and Atlanta beat Oakland. So the tie breaking, once it goes past the division record, NFC record, then it goes to head-to-head competition. So that's where these two games could come back to haunt them. Hopefully not.
Good points, guys. All right. So, BB, you're going to the game tomorrow, the Saints in Carolina, man. How do you feel about this?
I mean, I like the Saints' chances. Obviously, anytime you play a divisional opponent, you know it's going to come down to the wire. It doesn't matter what year, who it is. It doesn't matter if it's Tampa, Atlanta, Carolina, where it's played, what year. Whether the team's 0-16 or 16-0, it doesn't matter. I think it's going to be a well-fought game. I'd like to believe the Saints are going to come out on top, but I really think, and I think I said it the first time these two teams played, it's going to be about which team can run the ball well. It's going to be about which team can hold on to possession of the ball. The Saints' defense was out on the field for 40 of the 60 minutes against Denver. You can't do that to your defense, especially against a Carolina team that can put up points quick, but also have nice long drives. I think the Saints are going to have to really dive into that playbook and really draw things up from Mark Ingram and Tim Hightower. But I like the chances the Saints have. I think Drew goes and he has a typical Drew Brees-like day, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But I'm looking at Ingram and Hightower to combine for 150. Somewhere in that range, because that's going to have to happen to keep the other team off the field. And I told you guys this was going to be short. It's been a crazy week, really crunched for time. I'm sorry I haven't been able to be on just about every single day. I think this is the first time in a week I've been on with you guys, but I'm going to try to find some time, free up some time, and I'll be with you guys later in the week.
Hey, man, you never apologize. You're in college. We respect that, and we support you. You understand? So, hey, take some good pictures for us. Do some interviews or Snapchats or whatever you can, so we can be able to use that a part of the Saints News website. Okay.
I hope you can
absolutely.
I'm hoping you can get a really good picture of Cam Newton on the sideline crying with his little towel over his head. That would really make me happy.
Phone home.
Listen, I couldn't get credentials to the game. I'm barely in the stadium, but I will try.
Do your best, man. I don't care if it's I don't care how far away it is. We'll crop it. We'll make it work.
Yeah, definitely.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, BB, hey, it's good to hear you. Have a good one. Have a good time this weekend, and hey, do well in school, man. Okay.
Hey, I'm trying. They're kicking my butt. This is basketball season starting. We got our last football game of the season on Saturday. So between being on scholarship to be a commentator and school and being with you guys, it's been hard, but I'll do it. I'll get through it and keep the grades up.
All right. Well, just hang in there, Doc.
I'm living vicariously through you right now, brother, so do your thing.
I appreciate you guys.
Okay. Take care. That's Brendan Borland. All right. The professor speaks. Okay.
I'm glad to hear him doing so well.
Man, he's doing an outstanding job, man. And hopefully, he's one of those young cats we're going to be able to see on ESPN or NFL Network or somewhere later on down the line, because he has that much talent and understanding of the game. So, all right, guys. Professor?
Yes, sir.
Rim, let's just go through this right quick, man. The Saints in Carolina, uphill battle. We have to be able to win this game. This is the game that, no matter what you say, if the Saints lose this game, in my opinion, I think they're done for. How do you guys feel about that statement?
I would have to say I agree. A lot would have to happen for them to not be done for. Mainly, Atlanta taking a tailspin, which is always possible. They do it just about every year. But but even with them taking a tailspin, we would